Alright, here we are, back again. So, we're in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. In theory, what I want to do is I'd love to work on the decks, right? I know we haven't wrapped up the story. Yeah, we're working on it, but I'd love to work on the decks. That's like the in theory plan. But I also know that a big thing that we're missing, if we just pull up the decks here, let me just pull up the decks real quick here. So, and I have caught a few things since the last stream, right? There are a few things I know where they spawn. We just have to go catch them. A few that we have to trade. It's this. This is the complication with the decks. Admittedly, I have no idea what these two are. Is this... I guess this would be Bulbasaur and Squirtle? A large portion of this dex is just the starters. So, to get the starters, we need Blueberry points. But to get Blueberry points, we have to do Blueberry point quests. So I think that's what this stream is going to be. Just doing the Blueberry quests, getting as many points as possible to, get us one step closer to finishing the decks. That's my plan anyways. Yeah, and yeah, I think that's it. Doing these BBQs, grinding, because I'm pretty sure, from what it sounds like, we need the BBQs to get the things. So I think that's what we'll work on. Let's just go to the start. We're not doing any story stuff. I'm just going to completely ignore that. Instead, we're just doing the BBQs. That's what I care about. That's what matters. And we'll figure out the rest later. Oh. So, tonight, we got a few stories, There was one big one that we're gonna kind of briefly talk about. There's a few other things that are sort of important. There's one that's, kind of personal to me. Yeah, let's go with that. And then we have some WIBE stuff. The Percy Jackson show premiered. I've talked before about how I'm a big fan of the books. I just finished the 6th book the other week. I talked about how I was reading it and I'd finally finished it, sometime last week. So we do have those to talk about. And then, I also did see Aquaman. I saw Aquaman about an hour ago. Yeah, I got out about an hour ago. Then I was like, yeah, I should pick up dinner. So I sat in a drive-thru for half an hour because they were stupid busy. Because, yeah. So that's kind of it for today, right? We got Aquaman. But, it's near the end of the year, so things are kind of wrapping up. There's usually around this time of year, post-Game Awards, there's usually no news. Right? I expect nothing from the news. But there were some... Is that a Plusle or is that a mine? Which one do we need? I think that's Plusle. Right? Usually there's no news around this time. But things have kind of changed. Okay, we need mine them. Right, there was kind of one big news story that kind of, involved everyone. And we'll talk about it. I think I have it on this list second. Because I've got some movie news to talk about first, right? Talking about our favorite subject, the currently crumbling MCU. And yeah. So I guess we should, just kind of, as we're slowly working our way through these Terra quests, alright, I guess we should get started with that. So, our first story... So, Johnathan Majors. Right? He's been the actor playing Kang in shows such as Loki, and movies such as Ant-Man and the Wasp 3 that came out this year. That blows my mind. Really, it does not feel like that movie came out this year. But it did. Yeah, no, that totally came out this year, that piece of garbo. So, he's right, he was Kang, right? He was the big 1,000 variations of the same guy. And, I thought I think he did an okay job as Kang. I thought he was fine in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. As fucking Immortus, He Who Remains, I thought he did okay. His performance of Victor Timely was a very interesting choice. Like, it was very interesting what they did with the character of Victor Timely. But I think it pays off fine enough. Right? Loki season 2 ended, I think, pretty decently. Decent. Nothing amazing. But, so, recently, right, allegations had come up against him for abuse in a trial that's been going on for the past few weeks. That, honestly, I've not been paying attention to, because I don't give a shit about the celebrity gossip most of the time. Unless we're finding out that they're Nazis, I kind of don't care. Or, in situations like this, where, they're abusers. So, right, for the most part, I try to avoid celebrity gossip. But everyone was talking about this, so yes, I did finally hear about it. And basically, he was found guilty in the case. He has not been sentenced yet. That, I think, happens in February, where he faces potentially up to 1 year in jail. Will he get 1 year in jail? Very likely not. Right, it is a very low chance that he will get a year in jail. That's celebrities, right? They can just buy whatever they want. That's not how this works. So I don't expect anything from that. But within an hour of this news breaking that he was being removed as Kang, or that he had been found guilty, it was revealed that Marvel has removed him from the MCU. Also, at the same time, they revealed that Avengers 5 where it was originally in their press junket thing, was called the Kang Dynasty. It is no longer called the Kang Dynasty. It is now just simply labeled Avengers 5. So, yeah. And, it's the right move, yes. Get him out of the project. But of course, it immediately asks the question, well, what does Marvel do now? I've seen a lot of different takes. The most popular one... Well, there are two popular ones. There's the one that says... There's the one to recast him. Right? Recast Johnathan Majors. And, just pick... I don't know, somebody else. A lot of people were saying John Boyega. I think he clearly doesn't want to do it, and I don't blame him with how dirty Disney did him. I kind of get it. So I don't think we need John Boyega as Kang. I mean, would he do a good job? Yeah, I'm sure he would, but we don't need that. And then the other solution is just remove the Kang storyline. Just take the Loki season 2 finale, and be like, no, the TVA now knows Kangs exist, so they're keeping an eye out for Kang, and that's it, right? That there is no Kang storyline. Now that the TVA knows about him, they can prepare for him, and that's just the end of the story. And that's that. Honestly, of the two options, that seems like the most likely. Because the plan is then, well, you get rid of Kang as the main villain, and instead, we shift to Doctor Doom. Which, I want to be clear, I'm pretty sure the plan was always to switch to Doctor Doom. That yes, Kang is the villain of his own movie, but then after the events of his own movie, he then gets supplanted by Doom. That was clearly always the plan. Right? I'm not the only... a lot of people know that, right? That Kang was always just kind of a temporary villain. Or, you know, he's Ultron. He's Ultron in Age of Ultron. He's Loki in the first Avengers movie. Right? Kang was never our Thanos. I know some people don't like that, right? That, oh, for the amount of time they've spent, what, 1 movie and 2 shows building him up? Potentially even more than that. He should be our Thanos. But no, the fact that the next Avengers 6 is, at least for the time, called Secret Wars. Doom was always going to become the villain. Or, you know, the Beyonder is going to become the villain. And then the Beyonder is going to get replaced by Doom. Right? Doom has always been the end goal. Always Doom. Yeah, no, I stand by that. Even with Kang. Doom has always been the end goal. Is that this... sure, let's just do this. So yeah, that's my opinion, right? The plan has always been Doom. But I think they should just recast Kang. I know they haven't, right, two seasons of a show and a movie isn't that much time to build up Kang. But technically, that's more build up than Thanos got. Thanos got 2 end credit scenes and maybe 2 scenes in the first Guardians of the Galaxy. And I mean, I guess it helps that Gamora is his daughter. That technically helps Thanos. But for the most part, Thanos, like Marvel did not have this big overarching plan. Right? I know a lot of people like to think that Marvel had this big overarching plan. They most certainly did not. Joss Whedon only put Thanos at the end of the first Avengers because he thought it would be cool. Right? Like, the fact that the first Thor movie has the Infinity Gauntlet with all the Infinity Stones in it is all the proof you need to know that, no, they did not think this through. I know they retconned it in Thor Ragnarok. Yeah, they retcon it in Thor Ragnarok. Doesn't change the fact that, no, that was not... Thanos being the big endgame threat was not the plan. But I think this also... I think they should just recast Kang. If you spent this time setting him up, I feel like just shifting out away from him kind of ruins things, right? It gets rid of all this build-up. I know some people will say, well, oh, what are they really building to? And yes, it's true, we don't really know. But to be fair, how much did they build up Ultron? Right? How much did they... Right? Oh, Ultron's, goal is to destroy the world. Yeah, okay. Guess what Kang's goal is? To conquer the world. Oh, woo, I wonder how the fuck that's gonna play out. Oh, look at this big mystery here about how Kang is, going to fucking take over the world. It's not that big of a mystery. The guy conquers. His movie is going to be about him conquering. It's not that fucking hard. It's not that complicated either. No, I think they should just recast Kang. I mean, again, still, you can shift to Doom. But just recast Kang. Who do you recast Kang as? I don't know. Honestly, I would much... Because one of the things people have pointed out, there was a post going around recently that was like, oh, you look at all the different versions of, like, Captain America. Right? You've got Captain America, Captain Carter, right? You've got Steve Rogers, you've got Bucky, you've got Sam Wilson. And then yet, right, all very different looking characters. And then you've got Kang. All variations just look the same. So my idea for recasting Kang is you don't recast one person as Kang. You get a bunch of people to be Kang. Right? Like, hire 5 different actors to play the 5 different variants in the Council of Kangs. I think that's way more... Get an actress in there as well. Do 5 males and 1 female. I think that would also be more interesting. Because I know in the comics, there are female variations of Kang. For fuck's sake, the Ultimate Universe version of Kang was Susan Storm. Right? Just give us multiple versions of Kang. I feel like that's instead of casting one actor, cast a bunch of different actors to play your different variations of Kang. And you still do like 1,000 of them. But, you know, that's how you do it. I think that's the more interesting way to do it. But yeah, so I don't want them to shift away from Kang. Just completely... I know people don't entirely love the storyline. But yeah, I mean, we haven't even gotten to the ending yet. I kind of get it. But I think this speaks to the bigger problem with the MCU right now, is that they keep building up to these big things, when I think it was important to have these smaller movies. Because originally, right, okay, so the way we separate Marvel phases is technically completely arbitrary, especially nowadays. But originally, it was like, hey, guess what? We're at the end of Phase 1 here. How do we know it's the end of Phase 1? Because there was an Avengers movie. Hey, we're at the end of Phase 2. How do we know it's the end of Phase 2? Because there was an Avengers movie. Well, okay, yes, technically Phase 2 ends with Ant-Man. Technically Phase 3 ends with a Spider-Man. You get the point, though, right? Like, phases ended on certain things. And I feel like part of the problem, right, like, ending on an Avengers movie was like, yeah, you know, the phase was building up to something. Even if it really wasn't building up to something, you know? Like, even if you didn't have some sort of big end goal, it's still kind of, right, the fact that there was an Avengers movie at the end made it feel like there was. And, like, I don't even think you have to end with an Avengers movie. I think you just have to end with a crossover movie. And I think that's part of the problem of Phase 4. Phase 4 should have ended with a crossover movie, and it should have been Secret Invasion. They should have spent Phase 4 in the post-credit scenes and whatnot, setting up the Skrulls. And then, at the end of Phase 4, we should have gotten Secret Wars. And kind of like, they should have taken some influence from the TV show, they should have taken some influence from the comics, and had the Skrulls come to Earth and pretend to be the Avengers, to, like, lure people into a false sense of security. To be like, oh yeah, look, the Avengers, right? Welcome the Skrulls onto Earth. Welcome their invasion. And then, you know, the real Avengers have to come in and stop the Skrulls that have replaced them. And basically Phase 4 ends with people's just complete distrust in the Avengers. That, right, at the end of Secret Wars, well, yes, they have stopped the Skrull invasion. The people of Earth no longer trust the Avengers. They no longer trust heroes. And then, you know, move that into X-Men, then the Kang, and then Phase 5 should have all been around building up Kang. And Phase 5 ends with, you know, the Kang Dynasty, where they go in and they beat up Kang, right? And Kang invades Earth. And, you know, they fight 1,000 different variations of him, yada, yada, yada. You know how it goes. But yeah, that's not what happened. That is not what happened. And instead of doing these, like, movies at the end of each phase, we're instead having to wait for, you know... It was before, like, okay, we got 2 Avengers movie building up to a big 2-parter. Now, I feel like since they've upped the ante, they only want to do the big 2-parter. And I feel like that takes away from a lot of it. I don't want to end with the 2-parter. I don't want the only Avengers movie to be the 2-parter. And yes, you can throw stuff like Thunderbolts in there. You can throw stuff like Young Avengers in there. I think both of those things are equally valid as team-ups. But no, I just feel like they spaced... Right, we're getting both too much content, but I also feel like the content... Right, like, they're spacing it out too much. Because, you know, they've upped the... It's power creep, right? They've now that Infinity War and Endgame have happened, they've made these things too powerful. So now we can only get one every, you know, every third phase. Instead of before where we were getting an Avengers film every phase. And I just think it cheapens everything. I really do. That's really how I feel. Is that I really wish right, they're giving us too much stuff, and I wish they had given us some more crossover stuff. Because that's what right, even if you don't have to plan everything out. Because again, they definitely did not have everything planned out. But I like the idea of it building towards something. Do we have to... Oh, we have to catch a grass type. I don't know. I think they should recast Kang. I guess that's my big takeaway. Get a bunch of different actors to play Kang. I think that would be really good. Will they do that? I don't know. Some insiders say yes. Some insiders say no. So literally anything is possible. But I would much rather have a recast Kang. And then, at the end of Kang's movie, because of the actions of Kang messing with the multiverse, it's now set up the Beyonder, and then... Like, the end of... Kang should have been the end of Phase 5, and then at the end of Phase 5, it sets up the Beyonder as, like, this guy who's coming, and then Secret War should have been a big two-parter. Instead, now we get none of that set up, and we're just going straight to the Secret Wars two-parter. Is the age of the MCU over? I don't know. But it ain't... There are problems. There are plenty of problems. Battle of Wild Terra. Oh, didn't we need to catch a grass type? But yeah, I think it's all a mess. Not as much of a mess as DC. Like, I saw the last DCEU movie today. What a total fucking mess the DCEU was. Like, we're not that bad. But we're definitely not in a perfect position or anything. But I will still go... Right, it's like me in Pokemon, right? No matter how bad Pokemon fucks up their games, I still buy everyone because they bought and sold my soul years ago. That's kind of Marvel, right? They bought and sold my souls years ago. So now I just kind of go see whatever crap they put out. Not that I even hate everything. Like, I thought The Marvels was a perfectly fine movie. I actually kind of enjoyed The Marvels, right? The best MCU movie? God, no. But the worst? Oh, far from it. Yeah. Because, people act like the old MCU was all sunshine and rainbows, and it was not. Like, fucking Iron Man 2 was such a mess, man. And that's like the third movie. So... But no, I don't know. I don't know much about Kang. I don't know any of Kang's, famous storylines. The first Avengers movie adapted, the first Avengers comic. Kind of. Age of Ultron may be named Age of Ultron, but they didn't entirely adapt the, Age of Ultron comic, right? Age of Ultron as a comic, from what I know, is very different. Instead, they kind of took a medley of Ultron stories, but they also did have to remove Hank Pym, because, he wasn't introduced yet. And then Infinity War, technically Infinity War doesn't even really adapt Infinity War. It actually it does a better job at adapting a Thanos Quest, which was the prequel to Infinity War. Because Thanos Quest, because if you've never read the Infinity War comic, well, Infinity Gauntlet, I mean, not Infinity, right? The movie Infinity War may have the name Infinity War, but it's based on the comic Infinity Gauntlet. It's just Infinity War is a better name than Infinity Gauntlet. And the Infinity Gauntlet comic, right, starts with Thanos already having all the Infinity Stones. That is not good. So, I see how we got from point A to point B. Whereas Endgame doesn't really adapt anything, from what I know. I mean, not anything I can think of that's very specific. So, I don't know if Kang has, a famous storyline. I know Doom, and guess what? Dr. Doom's, I don't know if it's his most famous storyline, but one of his famous storylines is fucking Secret Wars. So, like, I understand why that's being adapted as Doom's comic. God, this foul. Okay, and I don't have my iron hands. That's the other thing that sucks, is I don't have iron hands, because I lent it out to somebody. So getting foul played here really fucking sucks. What else could we use against this guy? I don't even think I have no. Well, I had iron hands, which I don't have at the moment. So, yeah, I guess we can't do this. Yeah, I'm just gonna leave this raid. Okay, we've been talking about Johnathan Majors for like 20 minutes now. Let's just move on. So, Insomniac. So, last week sometime, it might have even been earlier than that, but I swear it was like last week, 2 weeks ago. It was, right, Insomniac put out a thing that, or there was a thing that said like, hey, Insomniac has been hacked. The hackers are asking for, I want to say it was like 50 Bitcoin, which is like $2 million. And so we now know, right, Insomniac did not pay that ransom. So the hackers released all of their data. Now, I'm not going to go over what was leaked, right? Now, I'm not going to go over a lot of the major stuff. Just know it was basically their release slate it was 1.67 terabytes of data, which include a bunch of like basically their entire release slate up through like 2030 something, like into the mid 2030s, I think. It was a bunch of, right, we got a bunch of footage of Wolverine from early in that game's development. There were a few other things as well, like concepts arts and whatnot. A bunch of personal data from employees. And a ton of, right, 1.6 terabytes. It's a lot of stuff. But yeah, this sucks. You know, this is not how, right, having all this data leaked like that is absolutely terrible. This is very different from the, thing that happened to Rockstar, where that one guy, right, hacked Rockstar and stole the GTA 6 footage. No, this was like a malicious attack. Oh, hey! How's it going, y'all? Finbar? Huey? How you doing? Thanks for coming. We're talking about Insomniac stuff right now while I'm just doing some of these BBQs. Battle of Wild Terror. I still haven't even seen one of those. Wasn't there one over here on this island? Are you winning? I mean, we're making progress. We're making progress. That's what matters. We're gonna beat up this bird. But yeah, no, these Insomniac leaks are just, I feel bad for the employees, right? Who have, right, a lot of their personal information is leaked. You know, like, I'm assuming they're like addresses. I haven't looked at any of the stuff, right? But it's fair to assume like where they live, how much they're getting paid, all that sort of stuff is leaked, right? They've basically been doxxed, and that's absolutely terrible. I feel so bad for them. And a lot of, like, they've been working on these games for who knows how long. And all this stuff, right, that they care so deeply about is now just completely out in the public. That sucks. That, to have all your pride and joy just put out there. Not by your own whims, but by the whims of some rando who, you know, who had malicious intent here. It's an absolutely terrible scenario. What else? Personal information. The other thing, though, the one thing that I do want from these leaks is we now know how much some of these games cost. So we did get information about how much Insomniac spent to make some of their most recent games. So, for example, Ratchet and Clank: Rift Apart cost $81 million to make. And according to these leaks, it lost $8 million. Which is kind of wild when you think about it. Right? This massive game lost $8 million. And I want to say it sold like 5 million copies. So, 81 million, and you still lose 8, even with 5 million copies sold. And that's just for the cost of the game. I doubt this includes marketing and stuff like that. I bet that costs a lot more money. Spider-Man Miles Morales cost $156 million. Spider-Man 2, the one that came out this year, also cost $312 million. Just for the game. That's just to make the game. It costs over $300 million. That is an absolutely wild number. Like, how much, like, I want to say both Endgame and Infinity War combined cost that much. And admittedly, Hollywood budgets are really bad right now. Like, Hollywood shows keep getting more and more expensive, right? We'll talk about The Lightning Thief in a little bit. But The Lightning Thief, I want to say each episode on that show cost like $20 million. That's how much that new Godzilla movie costs. Like, just to make that entire movie was like $20 million. And they spent that on like a single episode of Percy Jackson. God, everything is so fucking expensive nowadays. It's kind of wild when you think about it. The other budget here that really surprises me is the Spider-Man remake. They remade the original Spider-Man game for PS4. And, it wasn't like a from-the-ground-up remake. It was just like an up-res version. Even just an up-res version of Spider-Man still cost $40 million. That's crazy. Right? Just to port a game from PS4 to PS5 cost $40 million. Sneak up, catch an electric type, and raid battle. So, and there's so much other stuff in this leak, but no, that's all I wanted, right? A lot of these game leaks, I know we're all going to talk about them for years from now. But for today, I just kind of, I want to focus more on the price. But also, yeah, it sucks for these employees, right? Having all this information, it reminds me, right, when, like, E3 doxed journalists a few years ago. And it was just like, oh my god, this is awful. That's kind of what I feel like here. Right? Like, oh, these people didn't ask to be this, right? They're just people doing a job, trying to do good work, and they did not ask to be doxed like this. What was it? Wild? So, it sucks. These Insomniac leaks are awful. I recommend watching Greg Miller. Greg Miller did a bit about it, right, for Kinda Funny Games, and I think he put everything so well. So I recommend that. Ah, shit. So next up, other gaming news. We found out Bobby Kotick, who is the current CEO of Activision Blizzard King, will be stepping down from ABK as of December 29th. So Bobby Kotick is a terrible person, one of the truly worst people in the video game industry. And we found out that finally because we were hoping that with the merger of Microsoft and Activision Blizzard King, that Bobby Kotick would finally be stepping down. And yes, as of December 29th of this year, he will be stepping down. Is he probably getting like a $5 million buyout or something like that? Probably. right? He's probably getting like a sending away bonus, or, you know, he's getting an incentive package to leave the company. Because all these greedy, scummy CEOs always get something like that. So it's awful. It is truly awful. What a shame. But, you know, at least he's finally gone. You know, the alleged protector of abusers. Because that's what he protected abusers, allegedly. Right? It's real. Some of the stuff he has done is just awful. And good riddance. At least hopefully this is the last we ever hear of him. And he dies in a ditch somewheres. And we celebrate his death the same way we did Henry Kissinger. That's the guy who... Rupert Murdoch. Well, we will, but yeah. Yeah, Henry Kissinger... Right. Because Bobby Kotick was a terrible person. Just through and through in all ways. We should change that. I'll do that one. Let's make a sandwich. Yeah, I have nothing, you know, I have nothing good to say about him. It's just good that he's finally gone. That's really what it all comes down to. Is it's good that he's gone. Let's find a sandwich we can make. I think this will work. Great sweet sandwich. So, the next story, while we make this sandwich, we have a sad story. So, I'm going to start... this is a very personal one to me. And so I'm going to start it off with a personal story. So, during the pandemic, right, terrible, just awful things. And, you know, people cope with the pandemic in many different ways. One of the things I did during the pandemic was I got addicted to Fallout New Vegas. Not playing it as much as watching, you know, Let's Plays of Fallout New Vegas. And what kicked that all off was me stumbling across a channel called Mittensquad. Right? Mittensquad was run by a guy named Paul, and it was just him doing these weird, goofy challenges in Fallout New Vegas, Fallout 4, Fallout 3, he did a few in Skyrim, and you know, these were fantastic videos, right? Like, there was I think it was Fallout 4 with just legendary weapons, beat Fallout New Vegas with the Chaos mod, beat Fallout 4 with the Syringer, beat Fallout New Vegas with the Euclid Sea Finder. Just tons of crazy stuff like that. And they were very good, very entertaining videos. And through him, I found another channel I really love called Mike Burnfire, who has like an over 300 episode playthrough of Fallout New Vegas. So Mittensquad and other Fallout New Vegas people helped me get through the pandemic. Right? They were the channel I watched. And so, a while ago, over a year ago now, right, Paul had struggled with alcoholism. Right? That was his vice, and he struggled with it. And he had taken multiple breaks, right, where he'd go away to get better, he'd eventually relapse, and then he'd disappear. And about a year ago, he disappeared. And we hadn't heard anything from him since. I remember back in like June, maybe even earlier than that. Earlier this year, I looked it up, like, hey, you know, have we ever heard anything from him? And he had like posted on Reddit, like, no, you know, I'm still in rehab. At some point, he got like pneumonia or something, and it was really bad. But he was working towards recovery. And last week, I'm just gonna keep messing around. I'll pick up 10 items in auto battle. Okay. So last week, Paul, so like on Friday, so basically a week from today, I was thinking about Mittensquad, and I was like, you know, I wonder if he said anything recently. So I looked up on his YouTube page, and he actually posted a video, or he posted a community note on YouTube on Thanksgiving, saying like, hey, you know, I'm still trying to get better, but, you know, I'm making good progress, right? Instead of blacking out, like, every day, I'm now only blacking out every, like, 2-3 times a month. So, right, he still had, you know, ways to go, but he was getting better. And, you know, I'm just gonna read the, you know, give me a second. I'm gonna find it. I'm gonna read his exact words. Community. So, yeah. So, Mittensquad channel update. It's Thanksgiving today, and I'm not dead. Despite some rumors that I am, I've been drinking lately, but it's a bit less than it was most of this year. From blacking out 2 to 3 times a week, to maybe 2 to 3 times in the last month and a half. Still not good, but progress is progress, regardless of how slow it is, and the Mittensquad channel isn't dead either. I will upload again, eventually, just not until I feel like I can maintain some sort of schedule, even if it's only 1 video per month. Don't be surprised if you don't see another video until early next year. Lastly, I want to thank you all for your continued support over the last year. Even though I've pretty much gone radio silent, it genuinely does mean a lot to me, even if it appears to some people as nothing more than a monotonous, emotionalist piece of eye candy that's gone a little bad. But like I said, Mittensquad will return, Paul. So he posted that on Thanksgiving Day. And I read it for the first time about a week ago. Then on Monday or Tuesday of this week, it was Monday or Tuesday, I got home from work, I sat down on my couch, and started scrolling through Twitter when I see the post, right, Paul of Mittensquad passed away at the age of 27. And time just stopped. It felt like my heart stopped beating. I was caught off guard. Because, yeah, you hear it, right? He's talking about, oh, you know, things are bad, not great, but they're getting better. I plan on coming back. And, yeah, he passed away at the age of 27. He's a little older than me, but not by much. And, right, we found out from a funeral page, right, his birth name was Joseph Wilson, but he went by Paul. But we're pretty sure it's him. He's got a very recognizable face. And so, yeah, we're pretty sure it's him. And it's heartbreaking. He was truly a great creator. Hilarious videos. Very well-made challenge runs. Like, he was not the first person to do a challenge run. Like, I'm pretty sure I'd been watching, like, Game Champ 3000 before him. But he just had a very good style. He was funny. He did a great job with his work. He made great videos, well-written scripts that I just absolutely loved that got me through the pandemic. And he's dead. And I'll be right. I felt like the world stopped. I didn't cry. But I've just been watching his stuff since then. And it feels very different, right? Like, now that, right, the fact that all of his stuff is still there, that we can still hear his voice and everything, but he's not with us. And I never knew this guy. I never met this guy. I don't even know if I ever commented under his video. But he meant so much, right? He was he just did a fantastic job, and I'll miss him. It truly is just awful. Like, this is the... Right, like, How do I even put this into words? Right, it's... part of it fucks me up because he was my age. Right, like, when, was it Cameron Boyce died a few years ago? And, like, he was, I think, younger. He was like a year younger than me or something like that. And I was like, what? It didn't, because I saw Jesse or whatever back in the day. I'd seen Grown Ups too. So yeah, oh my god, he was a great. I really hope he's found peace, and that he knew how much he meant to us, right? That he knew how many people he made happy, right? How much joy his videos brought, even if he was constantly dealing with pain, right? I still hope he found peace in that. Oh my god. What? God, how do I even transition away from that? But no, if you've never seen his stuff, it's all up on YouTube. I recommend, his Fallout 4, Fallout New Vegas stuff. His Fallout 3 stuff is good. I'm just not a big fan of Fallout 3. I think that game's kind of a mess. Oh, sneak up and surprise. Auto battle. Oh yeah, we can figure this out. So, let's talk about what I've been enjoying. So, yeah, I have been watching a lot of Mittensquad stuff. Like, not in all my free time. Sometimes I've just been listening to it in the background. Like today. So currently there's these events going on. I think it might end today. Where it's right, they have these event raids. Where it's like, hey, there's special Pokemon that you can find, right? Like Milcery. And, other things. I wonder what this one is. We can go investigate that. But, right, so there's all these event raids going on in Pokemon right now. And, I was kind of... They have increased odds of shinies. So, I did some shiny hunting. I was actually very successful. So, if we come over here... I got 8 shiny Milcerys. All of these are shiny. And I got them all, like, back to back. So I got all these shiny Milcerys. Okay, well, I got the first 3 back to back. Then I didn't get anything for like a half hour. Then I got these 2 back to back. And then the next 3 I think I got like each like 10-20 minutes apart. Let's see. I know I have some clips somewheres. Oh, but not all these picture bullshit. So I'm going after this one. I think I just catch this one in a repeat ball. But look at the Milcery in the background there. Right, the one right next to Masquerada. You'll notice as I try to catch this one. So I catch a shiny one. That one is also shiny. Right next to each other. That's how high these shiny raids were. Is right, you were almost getting them just straight up back to back. And yeah, they were all pretty easy finds. And they were easy to tell because of the eyes. And also, it was really nice that the Milcery would just come to you. I think this is the clip where they all circle up on me. Yeah, it's really nice because they all just come to you. And you can tell which one, right, how easy they are to find the shiny. And then I did some hunting for Flabebe. You'll see it here as I'm just kind of running around. So I'm looking for the eyes. The eyes in the little green thing on the Flabebe is what I was looking for. But I accidentally bumped into this one. And sure enough, this one was the shiny. So yeah, I've done some hunting. So I also did some hunting for Litwick. For some reason in my head, shiny Litwick had a red flame. That was what separated normal Litwick from shiny Litwick, is that it had a red flame. But I guess I'm just thinking, because Chandelure has a red flame. But no, The shiny Litwick has green eyes and a slightly lighter blue flame. That's it. That's the only way you can tell them apart. But I ended up finding 3 of them. And finally, you have shiny Flabébé, which I found 1, which was a nightmare to find. And I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I don't need another. Right? Like, these, I'm going to turn all of these Milcery into, you know, the different... I'm going to use each of the different candies. Because there are 7 different Milcery candy, or Alcremie candies. I'm just going to use all 7. Right? I can have 1 stage of each, right? Litwick, Chandelure, and whatever the middle stage is. But this one Flabébé is just like, yep, I found 1, good enough for me. Because shiny Flabébé is a nightmare. Like, utterly and truly a nightmare. So, yeah, I did not have fun with that. Yeah, so I was doing that today. I was listening to Mittensquad. I listened to the new Flashback with Smosh. They had a Danebo on, you know, creator of the Annoying Orange, and in the video they come out as trans. And I was like, oh, hell yeah. Like, that's... Because, like, immediately you started it, and I'm like, they're, you know, they present more feminine. And I was like, wait, is Danebo trans? I legitimately had no idea. And yeah, I guess that was the first, like, they had, like, you know, presented feminine for a while now. But this is, like, the first time they've officially come out. And I was like, yeah, you know, fantastic. You know, I know... You know, in that video, they compare Annoying Orange to Skibidi Toilet. And I think that's the perfect comparison, honestly. I think that is a great comparison. Because it kind of does remind me of that in some ways. So yeah, no, I totally get how you get from, you know, Annoying Orange to Skibidi Toilet. Totally. They're kind of weird content like that. And, you know, I kind of like weird content like that. So I totally get column A to column B. But no, I did not know they were thinking about having guests on Flashback with Smosh. But now that they've done it, I want them to keep doing it. I was like, no, this is fantastic. Yeah, keep making more of these. Okay, I don't think the Outbreak Pokemon is up here. I'm gonna guess it's down below somewheres. Because there's like a giant underground cavern here somewheres. But no, great video. Great video, that Flashback with Smosh. Easy. If you liked if you liked Annoying Orange, it's a great, just like, reminiscing on the series. And I hope they do more of them, right? Like, they make a joke about having Ray William Johnson on for one of them. And I'm like, yeah, you know, that'd be fun. Is this a Meteor raid? Oh, shit. Do I hunt for shiny Meteor? I'm gonna have to come back to this. I do want a shiny Meteor. I just don't want to do this now. Yeah, let's do this another time. Because I do really want a shiny Meteor. Because the one nice thing about the Milcery raids and the Chandelure and the Litwick raids is that they have increased shiny odds. So it makes it a lot easier to, you know, find them. But taking normal Meteor odds, and, you know, the fact that we can't see which one's shiny or not, let's do that another time. What else? What else have I been watching? I've been playing Pokemon. I've been watching that. Oh, so the book... Okay, so a while ago, we talked about the show Dead Endia. Right, which is a show based on a book by Hamish Steele? I definitely am pronouncing that wrong. But it's a show on Netflix called, right, Dead End Paranormal Park. Really good show. Easy recommendation. Right? I talked about it in the past. Right, we talked about Season 1 and Season 2 back when they premiered. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. And then it was canceled by Netflix. But when it was announced that it was canceled by Netflix, they did also announce that they were going to be re-releasing the books. Because after the show premiered, I was like, oh, it's based on a book. I should go find a copy of that book. And I had looked for a copy of the book. And it was like $50. And I was like, nah, I think I'm good. But after the show was canceled, they announced their reprinting of the books. So I picked up the reprinting, which was a lot cheaper. I think they were like each $20. So I picked up the books, and you know what? I had just been sitting on them. I had the books, and I had just been sitting on them in my library. But this week, I was like, I have some time right now. I'm going to read these books, right? They're graphic novels. They should only take me a few hours. Sure, you know what? Fuck it, why not? So I read through both of the Dead India books. And yeah, I enjoyed them. I do think I enjoy the show more, but it feels the show and the books feel very different, right? It's kind of like, how do I word this? What's a good comparison? Like, maybe, like, different versions of like Spider-Man, a good example, where, you have, like, the Tobey Maguire, the Andrew Garfield, and the Tom Holland Spider-Mans. And while they all use, generally, it's Peter Parker, it's Aunt May, it's J. Jonah Jameson, right? You have, like, these same characters, more or less. But, they do them in different ways. That's kind of like what the Dead India, the book, to Dead India, the show feels like. Right? Where it's like, okay, we have, the same characters. Norma, we have Barney, we have Pugsley. But everything around it feels different. Like, the characters are the same, but everything else is different. And there are some things, like, from the book that, are directly, like, I'm going to say, for lack of a better word, one-for-one adapted. Like, they do adaptations of, like, certain things in the comics. Right? Like, in the comic, one of the chapters is the beach day, right? Where Norma goes to the beach day, she doesn't have any friends, so she freaks out and goes to her therapist, but then, surprise, surprise, her therapist is actually a demon. Right? Like, the show does the same thing, but it plays out very differently. Of course, part of why it plays out very differently is because, like, Barney and Pugsley are basically the same characters. Right? Barney and Pugsley don't actually change that much. But Norma is a completely different character in the books. Norma is a lot more pessimistic. She's a lot more... Like, in the show, she's a loner because she's bad with people. In the books, she's a loner because she's a pessimist and a nihilist, right? Like, in the show, she's bad with names, so that's why she calls, like, Badia Death Slide. In the book, she's just not exactly a great person, and so she just doesn't remember anyone's name. In the show, Pugsley sacrifices himself to save Barney from being possessed by Tamalukas. In the book, Norma offers up Pugsley to save herself, right? Now, that's not me saying, like, I hate Norma in the book. She's just a completely different character. Other than that, I feel like more or less everyone is the same. Because I want to say, in the back of the first book, the author talks about how he originally pitched it, and they were talking about how, like, oh, I had this idea for, like, a Scooby-Doo parody, where it was two kids and their talking dog, hunting ghosts. And they were like, and they pitched the idea, and it was like, yeah, we like the characters, but the rest of the show isn't, right, the rest of I think it was a webcomic at the time, right, is nothing special. So, like, I kind of, right, it takes, like, the show and the comic take the same setting and the same characters, but their execution is very different. Especially, so, at the end of the second season of the show, the big reveal is that there's this character called the Watcher, and you find out the Watcher is Pugsley. And Pugsley defeats the Watcher by basically killing himself. It's not entirely how it works, but you know, Pugsley dies, the Watcher dies. In the comic, however, that's how the first book ends. With, like, because the Watcher is, like, this guy from, like, 10,000 years in the future who survived this big war. And now it's just the Watcher, and he's trying to recruit an army of ghosts. And, right, Norma, Pugsley, and Barney are part of that army. Whereas in, you know, that's how it plays out in this. In the show, no, it's completely different. Like, I don't even think they really... Outside of, like, going back to the past a few times and, you know, the Watcher being future Pugsley, like, the whole army of ghost things, no, that's not how it plays out. Especially because in the... Right, in the book, the angel and demon realms have kind of been destroyed. There's also, like, 1,000 of them. Whereas in the show, Pugsley is working for the angels. Right? It just plays out very differently. A lot of the stuff with Barney's family that's in the show just isn't in the book. Right? Like, there's one in the first book, there's a bit early on where they're at a birthday party for, like, they're, like, hosting the birthday party for the kids, and Barney's brother Patrick just happens to be there. Right? In the show, that's an entire episode because it's Patrick's birthday party. In the book, nope, not at all. He's like a single page. And then Barney finally, right, because he runs away from home because he's trans. In the book, the first time he reunites with his family is at the very end of the second book. In the show, it happens much sooner than that. He like, technically, he reunites with his family, in, like, probably, like, episode, like, 6 or 7. It happens way earlier. In the book, Norma dies, and they have to do, like, a seance to summon her ghost. In the show, it's Barney who dies. And they have to, you know, do a seance to save his ghost. So, like, there are things that play out very differently. The way that... So, right, the first book ends with Pugsley's death. So, Pugsley isn't even in the second book. Instead, it's, Instead, in the second book, Badia, she gets magic, right? She picks up Pugsley's spell book and starts learning magic. And then because she's learning demon magic, she ends up getting stolen by the angels at the end of the second book. In the big twist at the end of season 2 of the show is that Courtney is not actually a demon, but is instead an angel who has, like, broken their halo. It works the same way in the book, but in the book, right, because in the show, Pugsley dies. And that's, like, your big cliffhanger for season, or for the end of the first, right, is Pugsley's death. And in the show, right, the second season has Pugsley's death. In the book, because they need a big cliffhanger for the second book, Courtney ends up becoming an angel again. They get healed, and they get their halo back, but they lose their memory. And there's a big part of the book that's, Courtney and Norma are, like, best friends, right? Like, basically, after Courtney's crown broke, they lost all their memory and became, like, a wild animal, and it was Norma who taught Courtney to be human again. That's how it plays out in the book. In the show, it's completely different. I really do... They're, like, yeah, they have similar concepts, but I just feel like the execution is very different. And I think I like the shows more, right? The show feels more refined. I do wish we had gotten one more season of the show. That would have been, right? I would have loved to have seen how they would have ended things. Luckily, we are getting one more book. And, right, they do end with the book ends with the same cliffhanger as the show, that, hey, guess what? Pugsley is still alive. So I am interested to see where they're going to take that. But it does suck that the show was canceled. Because I really enjoyed the show. But it's Netflix, you know. They cancel everything under the sun. Where the fuck am I going to find a fighting type? Well, Tyrogue, but like other than that. So yeah, you know, I recommend both the books. I also really recommend the show. They're both really good. The other thing I have been reading was, right, I mentioned, I finally finished Chalice of the Gods, the 6th Percy Jackson book from the new trilogy. And, it's okay. You know, when I was talking about Hunger Games the other week, I kind of mentioned how Hunger Games Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes was, like, a book that didn't need to exist. Like, I didn't need to see another Hunger Games book, if I'm being completely honest. But, you know, they did it, and it was okay, you know? That's kind of how I feel about this Percy Jackson book. Like, this book didn't need to exist, but, you know, I like the characters, so I guess, you know, it's cool to see them again. Plus, part of me is convinced that the only reason these books do exist is because Rick Riordan still has, like, research he's done and things that just never came up in any of the previous books. Like Hebe, right? Like, Hebe's only barely been mentioned in the previous books, if at all. So I was like, oh, well, she's never showed up. So, you know, I guess we can just throw her in this book. Right, let's just do another one to, you know, talk about stuff we never have. Of course, there's the, like, Iris shows up in this, but I know Iris also shows up in Son of Neptune. So, right, there are certain concepts that it's just like, oh, well, you know, I never mentioned this in one of the previous books. So, you know, I guess I'll do it here. But yeah, I thought it was okay. You know, it had its moments. You know, it's nothing, like, amazing. It's definitely not a book that needed to exist. But I like the characters. You know, they're fun. So, I guess it's fine. You know? There are definitely worse books out there. But yeah, it didn't need to exist, really, if we're being honest. But I enjoyed it. And I'm excited for another 2. Hopefully, it's just another 2. You know, I don't need another fucking, I don't need another 5 books out of this. Especially with the way these are going. Like, the stakes are definitely a lot lower in these books as well. Well, okay, I mean, there's a thing that happens at the end of Chalice of the Gods that I do actually really like. Let's just say the final boss, I think, is done pretty well, and I like how they execute that all. But, yeah, like, it didn't need to exist. But I guess since we're talking about Percy Jackson, so I have been a fan of the Percy Jackson books since I think I was in middle school. I want to... Battle of the Labyrinth came out in, I want to say 6th grade? That sounds right. It might have been younger than that, but I want to say Battle of the Labyrinth came out in 6th grade. And then the next book came out in 7th grade. The Last Olympian. And I had a friend who read the Percy Jackson books. And, you know, he recommended them to me, and I was like, you know what, sure, I'll give these a check. Sure, why not? Let's do a stupid egg, shall we? So yeah, I had a friend recommend them to me. And so I read the 3 Percy Jackson books. And then when Battle of the Labyrinth came out, and I checked them all out from the library. Even Battle for the Labyrinth, when it came out, I did not buy it. No, I checked it out from the library. I was like the first one to check it out from the library. And so I read it over the weekend. That is probably the fastest I've ever read any book. I read that book in 24 hours. Really enjoyed it, you know. Oh, cool. That was easy. So yeah, I read Battle for the Labyrinth in like 24 hours. Really enjoyed it. Really, I did. But, after that, right, I read Last Olympian, really enjoyed that. And then I read the Heroes of Olympus books. And I enjoyed the first 3 of those. But books 5, 4, and 5, like 5, they're okay. But I wasn't like super invested in, I don't know, I wasn't as into them as I was the originals. Let's just put it like that. But I do especially enjoy Son of Neptune and Mark of Athena. But that's kind of like, that's where I fell off Percy Jackson. Like, I think I picked up the Hidden Oracle, but I never actually read it. And I still haven't. But I am thinking about it now. Now, right, with everything going on, I am thinking about it. Because you can read the new trilogy, Chalice of the Gods, and whatever the next 2 are going to be, without having read Trials of Apollo. Because they actually take place before Trials of Apollo. From what I was told. But, so I'm thinking about reading those. But, so, all that is to establish, yes, I'm a fan of the series, have been a fan for many a years now. So, I saw the original Percy Jackson movie. I thought it was okay. I was a dumb kid. Yeah, let's just go with that. And I was like, they make some changes, sure. But I was like, this is whatever, right? This was fine. And then I saw Sea of Monsters and was like, God, this was awful. Right? By that point, by the time Sea of Monsters came out, like 5, 8 years later, I had developed more solid logic and reasoning. And I was like, God, this book sucks. Are we in the coastal biome? So, yeah. But, when they announced they were doing a Disney Plus show, when, Rick Riordan was attached to the project himself, that, he was going to be overseeing everything, they announced the cast, I was really excited. And, it's just been waiting. It's just been waiting ever since then. And finally, this week, the first 2 episodes premiered. And I gotta say, I really enjoyed them. So, I reread The Lightning Thief earlier this year. And yeah, you know what? This is fairly accurate to The Lightning Thief. It's not one for one. There are definitely some things they have changed, some things they've added. And I'm not talking about, like, the casting. As I always say, pick the best person for the role, right? The rest will work out. And they do have some great... I am so glad the person they got for Dionysus. I can't remember the actor's name. I always think of him as Derek from The Good Place. But he was the dream casting. And you know what? He's fantastic. But the rest of the cast, the kid who they've got playing Percy, the kid who they've got playing Annabeth, the kid who they've got playing Grover, I think they all do a good job. The kid, Luke and Clarice are also really good. They've made some... I'm not going to say they changed Clarice, really, but they've definitely made her, like, motivation a lot more apparent. That, like, she's pissed at Percy for, doing this great feat of glory and getting acknowledged by his father, whereas Clarice's father will barely acknowledge she's existed, and the only thing he's ever given her is a spear that he broke in the 2nd episode. Like, yeah, Clarice has good motivation, so I definitely like that. I want to see more of Annabeth, like, from what they've done so far with her, I'm like, yeah, this is basically how it plays out in the book. But I do want more of her, once the quest actually starts. I feel like that'll all be good. The effects, I think the effects are good. Again, it's like a $20 million per episode, which is kind of crazy. But I think it looks good, seeing, Camp Half-Blood looks great. The Minotaur in the first episode. There are definitely some things where I'm like, I swear this happened in the book, but I honest to God cannot remember. Like, okay, so in my memory, there's a scene early on in the first book where Percy, right, during Capture the Flag, Percy is attacked by, like, dogs, like these, like, hellhounds. And I was like, I swear that happens in the first book. But I swear, that must be my memory messing with me. Because I swear it happens during Capture the Flag. And I want to say they also play Capture the Flag in, like, Book the Titan's Curse. So maybe I'm thinking about that. I know the whole Percy's whole motivation. So, right, his motivation is to save his mom. He doesn't give a shit about the quest to find the lightning thief, right? To prove himself innocent. All he cares about is saving his mom. And in the book, the entire reason he's going on the quest in the first place is to save his mom, right? Like, that's it. That's his entire motivation. Whereas in the show, he's told, hey, go on this quest. He says no. And then Grover has to tell him, hey, you gotta do this to save your mom, because she's probably not dead. Right? Whereas in the book, he internalizes that motivation. Also, Grover gets him kicked out of school in the show, and I was like, okay, it doesn't, like, subtract anything from the story. It's just kind of weird. Like, I don't know why they made that change, but okay. But no, I so far think it's good. Right? I think it's got a lot of potential. There are definitely some things where I'm like, okay, let's see where you go with this. Okay, I'm tired. But no, I'm excited. I love the books, man. And right now, this feels like what I want it to be. I hope, I worry that because this is so many seasons, or, because this is, such an expensive show, they might not do the whole thing. Especially if Disney Plus collapses in the next few years. Oh, wow. I was expecting Spaghettito, if I'm being honest. You are Mark 35. Yeah. So there's a lot of, places they can go with this. But I really do want to get it all, right? I want them to do all the books. I just, I worry all these streaming services are going to collapse. There was that thing recently about how Paramount is in talks to merge with Warner Brothers, which sounds awful, by the way. Like, that sounds terrible. But, I really am worried, like, all these streaming services are just going to collapse. And when they collapse, all their shows go with them. We had, a fighting type, and then terrestrialize. I know there's a TIE rogue somewhere around here. So yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited. I know I think it's 8 episodes going through the end of January. So we've still got a lot more show to get to. But I think it's got potential to be great. So the last thing I got to talk about is Aquaman. So I saw Aquaman just a few hours ago. And if I'm being honest, I expected nothing. Well, no, that's not true. I expected to be disappointed. I expected the Aquaman movie 2 to be bad. Right? It's the end of the DC universe. Nobody cares. I was expecting this movie to be awful. And, it wasn't good, but it also wasn't awful. I've seen far worse shows. Or far worse movies, even from DC. I think there's a really good argument to be made that Shazam 2 was worse than this Aquaman movie. I could also totally see the other way around. This is Aquaman is worse than Shazam. Yeah, I can totally see that. But, for the most part, I really think what sells this Aquaman movie is Jason Momoa. I think Jason Momoa likes playing Aquaman. He brings a lot of energy to the character, right? He's very energetic. He very much, is putting his all into it. And I think that works, right? Kind of like Fast and the Furious, right? I liked Jason Momoa in Fast and the Furious because he came at it with so much energy, right? He didn't take it seriously at all. And I feel like it kind of worked. And that's kind of what I feel like here. You know, he doesn't take it too seriously. He's just, you know, coming in, you know, having fun playing this character. He's in for a good time, not a long time. And I feel like it all kind of works out. So yeah, I think Jason Momoa does a fine job, and I think he really holds up a lot of this movie. The plot itself, right, is him, basically the villain, Black Manta, discovers this, like, lost kingdom and this mystical trident, and now he's, you know, trying to destroy Aquaman's home with this mystical trident. There's a lot of global warming stuff in this movie, and it's, like... I'll be honest, it's just really fucking hard to tell a good global warming story. I fucking blame Ted Turner for it, and all of the shit he did back in the day, but it's just hard to tell a good global warming story. And this one, like, the villain's whole motivation is he wants to, like, melt the polar ice caps to unleash, like, this great evil king. And it's just kind of sloppy. Not kind of, it's very sloppy. The villain, right, the guy who plays Black Manta, he's, you know, his motivation's fine, right? His motivation is very personal, but because of this, like, dark trident, he's, like, losing his mind and basically turning into this, like, evil Necropolis king. Randall Park is the other villain, but he, like, grows a consciousness halfway through the movie. So I know in the original version, from what it sounds like, there were rumors that test audiences really fucking hated this movie. But part of it was that, like, there was a rumor about how people were walking out of the film because they killed the baby. And so, spoiler alert, they don't kill the baby. But I could totally see an alternate timeline where they do kill the baby. Like, they totally set up in this movie the death of Aquababy. It doesn't happen because, you know, better heads prevailed, and it would 100%, like, ruin the film. Like, 1000% the death of Aquababy. Like, I don't give a shit about the baby, but, like, the death of a baby in a movie like this would just be like, it would just completely ruin everything. Like, that's not the type of movie this is, you know? So, they don't do it. But you can tell they definitely thought about doing it. Instead, the baby gets saved by Randall Park, kind of? Well, he saves it, and then, you know, he gets caught, the baby's almost killed, but Jason Momoa steps in to save it, and then Randall Park's, like, right there. But he doesn't run away with it. Instead, they have to wait for, like, Mira to come in and save it. Man, I don't know. The whole thing with Orem is kind of weird. Like, oh, do we just have to catch a guy? Right, or they bring in Orem. Because I feel like this movie would have worked fine if it was just Aquaman and Mira, and if they had just recast, because I feel like Mira and Aquaman had such a great dynamic in the first movie. I really do like them, and I hope whatever James Gunn's doing with his reboot, he keeps the two of them together, right? Whoever he casts as the new Aquaman and the new Mira. But I wish they had just recast Amber Heard, but no, instead they bring back Orem, because, you know, he's less controversial. And, I mean, yeah, he does fine, I guess. That's, like, this movie is fine. Like, I don't know, like a solid, like, 5 out of 10, maybe. Like, I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it either. The CGI, sometimes it looks good. Sometimes, there were some moments where I was like, you know what, this kind of works for me. But a lot of the underwater stuff is just awful. To be fair, that was kind of true of the first movie as well, where it was like, you know, some of this stuff really works, but some of this is just awful, right? Some of the underwater stuff is just terrible. And yeah, I kind of feel the same way here. Like, some of it works, but some of it's just bad. But no, would I recommend it? No, because there's at least like a dozen other things I would recommend first. Like just over this. I would recommend... So, before you watch Aquaman, I would recommend seeing Godzilla -1, The Boy and the Heron, Wonka, Poor Things, and... What's one other movie? I'd even recommend seeing Hunger Games before this. Is Hunger Games still in theaters? I honestly don't know. But there's like half a dozen things I would recommend seeing before I recommend Aquaman here. I guess that's how I put it. But no, it's, as an end to the DC universe, you know, it's an end to the DC universe. They don't make a big deal out of it. They kind of don't even mention it. Like, it's just like, hey, the movie ends. You know, the people of Earth now know about Atlantis. Movie over. Right, that's kind of it. That's kind of how the note they chose to end on. And, you know, I guess it's a fine note to end on, but... Yeah, no, the DC universe was just kind of a mess, and this is where they're choosing to end it. So, okay. Am I excited to see what James Gunn will do with it all? Yes. Is there a chance he could totally fuck it up? Oh, God, yes. But, you know, we'll just have to wait. I don't know. I don't know. I have faith in James Gunn. So, we'll just have to wait and see. Man, that's Aquaman. So, I guess that takes us to the outro. So, God, I'm so tired. So what's coming up in the future? Tomorrow we'll be back with Pokemon. You know, my hope is that we continue on. We have story stuff. You know, I'd love to finish the story. I'd love to roll credits on whatever the story will be. They did announce that we're actually going to get an epilogue story. One of the things that I don't know if I'd say it's really a problem with the story, but one of the things I found kind of weird is that your friends from the base game, you know, Girl, you know, Nimona, Penny, and Arvin never show up in the DLC. And I found it kind of weird, but as it turns out, we're actually going to get an epilogue story of us in the three of them going to Kitakame, and you know, that might be fun. You know, if they're going to tell like a little epilogue story, you know, that sounds okay. I still kind of find it weird that they're not in the base thing, but whatever. You know, at least we're getting something. Because, I mean, to be fair, I know Sword and Shield kind of did the same thing, but also to Sword and Shield's credit, in the post-game of Sword and Shield, right, after you beat the main story, you can go to the Isle of Armor, and you can find Hop there. Right, and you can only do that after you beat the game. God, this Beldum does not want to be caught. So yeah, you know, that's cool. But I do want to roll credits on the rest of the story. You know, find out what's going on below Area Zero. I don't think we have an insane amount left. And then we just gotta grind. It costs 1,200 points just to unlock the the starters, and we barely got to 3,000 this stream. Oh, okay, I think we're at 4,000. But you get my point, right? Like, we've done a lot. And I don't feel like we're that... Like, we still got so much more BP to grind. I know, I guess you get more BP if you're working with friends. Right? Like, if you join a union circle. Still you know, there's still... God, you do not get much. I think the word is that you need so much. And it's only for this, right? Most other things in this DLC have only required like 150 BP at most. And then we have this one random thing that costs 3,000, and there are 4 of them. So this is going to take forever, right? Like, this is every stream from now until we do it. It's just, you know, grinding BP to get this. And this stupid fucking Beldum that Every once in a while, you know, quick balls will catch 9 out of 10 things on their first try. And then every once in a while, we come across something that just does not want to be fucking caught. Where, you know, our quick catch charm just doesn't work. And it really sucks. This is so annoying. And it's like, if this was a Metagross, sure, you know, that's something really big, really powerful. This is a stupid fucking Beldum. But whatever. I should just go back. I don't, you know, honestly, I feel like that's the one thing that sucks about some of these 3D games, is I feel like Dusk Balls just don't even work anymore. Like, back in the day, Dusk Ball was like the most powerful ball, bar none, as long as you were playing at night. And I just feel like they do not work in Scarlet and Violet. Admittedly, I do feel like Quick Balls work a lot better. Yeah, we've used like 20 balls on just this one guy. So other than that, you know, I keep saying security breach. It's not gonna happen. Like, I know I want to do it, but it's not gonna happen. I haven't even... There's that new FNAF VR game. I'll be honest, I haven't been watching stuff. I watched Markiplier's first video, and was like, this is kind of boring. I'll be honest, he's like crawling around, and I'm like, on one hand, it's like, okay, this is kind of funny, but then like nothing happens for like 10 minutes. God, this guy sucks. And I'm like, whatever, you know, FNAF VR, whatever. But I do still, part of me does want to do security breach, but part of me just doesn't care. I do want to do the Stanley Parable, right? I've been saying, even if it's just like a single day stream of Stanley Parable, I know I've been saying forever now that I was going to do it. And I know I said I was going to do it before the end of the year. And I think we'll have time to do it. God, just give me a fucking critical capture. This is easily the most balls I have thrown without getting a critical capture. Like, seriously, I don't think, even like just like 20 different Pokemon, we get like a critical capture like every like 3 balls. Sometimes even more than that. And yet we've got fucking nothing for this Beldum. It's a stupid fucking Beldum. I have had easier times catching legendaries. Yeah, oh my god. Yeah, this is easily the hardest thing to catch in this entire DLC. I mean, I guess that explains why we haven't caught one up till this point. Oh my god, you stupid fucking... It killed itself! It literally killed itself before... We wasted over 30 balls on that thing. And nothing. That's fucking stupid. And now we gotta find another one. Because, yeah, part of the reason why we had to capture that thing was because I haven't seen one up until this point. You better catch in a single catch. Oh my god. I don't care what fucking tricks or japes you know. Oh my god. It's a fucking Beldum. I think that's the worst part, is it's a beldom. So yeah, I want to do the Stanley Parable. And then next week, we're doing Game of the Year. Right? So after Christmas, we're doing Game of the Year, right, on whatever next Friday is. I think it's like the 30th. We're going to do Game of the Year. I have a list, question mark. I don't I definitely have to rearrange everything on it. Because there are some games I'm thinking that I should probably move up and down. I don't know. But I definitely have something. I'll have something. So we're going to do Game of the Year. And then, yeah. And like always, Game of the Year is the end of the season. Right? So that's the season 4 finale. Episode 53. So for the first time ever, we have done an entire year. Right? This is a weekly show. So technically, I know this is episode 52, but we actually did 2 episodes in a single week once. Not like a month ago. Not even that long ago. So that's why we're 1 episode ahead. That's it. Right? So, but episode 53 will be our season finale. And then, yeah. And then we'll start, I guess, season 5. I don't know. I always talk about, like, changing the name of this show. I don't know. Google's now got their new Google podcast shit, which I know I bitched about last week. But I'm like, do we just completely change this show to something entirely new next season? And I mean, like, we might. Like, it definitely has crossed my mind. There we go. Beldom. Fucking finally. So yeah, other than that, yeah, I think that's kind of it. There's not much left to do. At least I don't think there's much left to do. Does that Excadrill look different? Nah, it's just the lighting. Yeah, it must just be the lighting. So yeah, anything else? No, I think that's it. And yeah, and next week's just gonna be, Game of the Year, end of the year wrap up, like I usually do. Like I'll go over. I don't do like a worst list or anything like that, but I usually do like an end of the year, like, hey, oh, here's some of the books, some of the movies, some of the TV shows I've liked, shit like that. So I'm sure I'll do some of that next week. I'm already off to a good start, because like always, Todd in the Shadows put out his worst list the other day, or yesterday, and one of the songs I really liked this year was on the worst list, which is tradition, It's tradition, so I'm glad to see that some things never change. What can I say? So yeah, anything else? I think that's it. I think that's it for a very strange night, because I'm very tired. Yeah, we'll be back tomorrow with more Pokemon, gotta do that we'll do the story DLC, and we'll hopefully finish it off. And then it's just completing the decks and whatever else we gotta do. I know these are trade evolutions, which are going to be easy enough. We need to get Hitmon Punch. Malamar, we tried earlier. I'm surprised we haven't seen a Lantern. Lantern doesn't feel like it should be a rare Pokemon. I've been collecting Galarian Twigs for that. I just don't remember where the person is. We have Milceres. We just need to turn one of them into an Alcremie. I was hoping to find one of these guys in a raid battle, because that's where I found this guy and this guy were in terror raids. But so far I haven't found Electivire, so I'm just going to keep my eye out for that. And then I think it's just the starters. Oh, Quillfish's evolution. I did see a thing on how to get Quillfish's evolution. I also saw a thing on how to get Hydrapple. So I do know how to get this one as well. It's not actually that hard. So we'll do that on stream next time. But no, this is where I'm going to end off for the day. So with that, I hope you all enjoyed. Stay tuned for more. Until next time, peace.